ASMR reader, and welcome back to my channel and to Newspring. Today we're going to be taking a look at Chapter 2 of this book, the prequel to the Wheel of Time series. I actually just filmed myself reading this about an hour ago, and I couldn't get it to transfer it to my laptop, and ended up accidentally deleting it. So that was a little bit frustrating, but it's part of it, I guess. Live and learn. Yes, that's one of the problems when you record in 4K. It takes forever to upload. Sometimes it doesn't. You accidentally delete it. So, is what it is. No use crying over spilled milk. But anyway, we can go ahead and get into it. Chapter 2 of Newspring. Thankfully, it's a fairly short chapter. It's, I think, 12 pages. And Robert Jordan has been known to write some pretty long ones, so thankfully it wasn't, 2 hours. It's only about 40 minutes, so anyway, we can go ahead and get into it. We left off last time with Lan and Dragmorian. I just butchered that name. Man, Dragmorian. Pretty sure that's right. Anyway, he was expecting to be fighting Aiel, but for some strange reason they actually avoided confrontation, which is strange, right? So maybe we'll find out a little bit of an answer to that in this chapter. So without further ado, Chapter 2, A Wish Fulfilled. Despite a fire blazing on the green marble hearth, the Amyrlin sitting room was cold enough to make Moiraine shiver, and only a tight jaw kept her teeth from chattering. Of course, it also stopped her from yawning, which would never have done, have a night's sleep or not. The colorful winter tapestries hanging on the walls, bright scenes of spring and garden parks, ought to have had a coating of frost, and icicles should have been hanging from the scroll-carved cornices. For one thing, the fireplace lay on the far side of the room from her, and this warmth did not extend far. For another, the tall glassed casements behind her, filling arched windows that led onto the balcony overlooking the Amyrlin's private garden, did not fit as well as they might, and they laid cold around the edges. Whatever the wind gusted outside, an icy breeze hit her back and cut through her woolen dress. Another struck her closest friend as well, but for all that Swan was tired, she would not have let it show if she were freezing to death. The Sun Palace in Kyrian, where Moiraine had done most of her growing up, had often been as cold in winter, yet there she had never been forced to stand in draughts. The chill seeped from the marble floor tiles through the great Ilion, flowered carpet, and Moiraine slippers too. The golden serpent ring on her left hand, the snake biting its own tail that symbolized eternity, continuity, and an initiate's bond to the tower, felt like a band of ice. When the Amyrlin told and accepted to stand over there and not bother her, however, and accepted stood where the Amyrlin pointed and tried not to let her notice any shivers. Worse than the cold, really, was the heavy smell of acrid smoke that even the heavy drafts could not dispel. It was not the smoke of the chimneys, but of burned villages around Tar Valon. Concentration of the cold kept her from fretting over the smoke. And the battle, the sky outside the windows held the gray of early morning now. Soon the fighting would begin again. If it had not already, she wanted to know how the battle was going. She had a right to know. excuse the Aiel in the slightest from the destruction they had brought to Kyrian, city and nation, but she knew where the ultimate blame lay. Since the Aiel arrived, though, not accepted and been confined to the tower grounds as strictly as novices. The world outside the walls might as well have ceased to exist. Reports came at regular intervals from Ezreal, Marid, high captain of the tower guard, but the contents were not shared with anyone except full sisters, if with them. Questions about the fighting addressed to Aes Sedai earned admonitions to concentrate on your studies, as though the largest battle fought since Arthur Hawkwing's time, and practically under her nose, was a mere distraction. Moiraine knew she could not be involved in any meaningful way, not in any way really, yet she wanted to be, if only by knowing what was happening. That might be illogical, but then she had never thought she was going to join the White Aja once she gained the shawl. The two silk-gowned women in shades of blue, seated on opposite sides of the small writing table on one side of the room, gave no sign they were aware of the smoke or the cold, though they were almost as far from the fireplace as she. Of course, they were Aes Sedai, with ageless faces, and for the smoke, they had certainly seen the aftermath of more battles than any general. They could remain serenity made flesh if 1,000 villages burned right in front of them. No one became Aes Sedai without learning to control her emotions of need, inwardly and outwardly. Tamra and Gitara did not seem tired, though they had taken only cat naps since the fighting began. That was why they had accepted an attendance all night, in case they wanted errands run or something brought to them. As for the cold, neither cold nor heat touched sisters the way it did other people. They always appeared unaware of either. Moiraine tried to work out how that was done. Every accepted tried sooner or later. However it was worked, it did not involve the one move, or she would have been able to see the weaves, or at least feel them. Tamra was more than simply Aes Sedai. She was the Amyrlin Seat, the ruler over all Aes Sedai. She had been raised from the blue, but of course the long stole draped on her shoulders was striped in the colors of the 7 Ajas, to show that the Amyrlin was of all Ajas and none. Over the history of the tower, some Amyrlins had taken that more literally than others. Tamra's skirts were slashed with all 7 colors, though that was not required. No Aja could feel itself advantaged or disadvantaged with her. Beyond the tower, when Tamra Ospenya spoke, kings and queens listened, whether they had Aes Sedai advisors or hated the White Tower. That was the power of an Amyrlin Seat. They might not take her advice or obey her instructions, but they listened, and politely. Even the High Lords of Tyr and Lord Captain Commander, no children of the light, did that much. Her long hair, lightly streaked with gray and caught in a jeweled silver net, framed a square, determined face. She usually got her way with rulers, but she did not take her power lightly or use it indiscriminately, either outside the tower or inside. Tamra was fair and just, which were not always the same thing, and she was often kind. Moiraine admired her greatly. The other woman, Tamra's keeper of the Chronicles, was a different matter altogether. Perhaps the second most powerful woman in the tower, and certainly at least equals to the sitters. Gitara Moroso was always just and usually fair, but kindness never seemed to occur to her. She was also flamboyant enough for a green or a yellow, tall and close to voluptuous. She wore a wide necklace of fire drops, earrings with rubies the size of pigeon eggs, and 3 jewel rings beside her great serpent ring. Her dress was a deeper blue than Tamra's and brocaded, and the keeper's stole on her shoulders, blue, since she had been raised from the blue, was nearly wide enough to be called a shawl. Moiraine had heard that Gitara still considered herself a blue, which would be shocking if true. The width of her stole certainly spoke in favor of the whispers. That was a matter of personal choice. As with all Aes Sedai, once they had worked long enough with the one power, it was impossible to put an age to Gitara's face. At a glance, you might think she was no more than 25, perhaps less. Then a second glance would say a youthful 45 or 50, and still just short of great beauty, while a third changed it all again. That smooth, ageless face was a mark of eyes to die to those who knew. To those who did not know, and many did not, her hair would have added to the confusion. Caught with carved ivory combs, it was white as snow. By whispered rumor, she was over 300 years old, very old even for an Aes Sedai. Speaking of a sister's age was extremely rude. Even another sister would be given a penance for it. A novice, or accepted, would surely find herself sent to the mistress of novices for a switching. But surely thinking about it did not count. Something else placed Gitara out of the ordinary. She had the foretelling sometimes, the talent of speaking, which was still in the future. But that was a very rare talent. It came to her only occasionally. But gossip, the accepted quarters overflowed with tittle-tattle. Gossip said that Gitara had more than one foretelling in the last few months. Some claimed that the reason the armies outside the city had been in place when the Aiel came was one of Gitara's foretellings. No one among the accepted knew for certain, of course. Maybe some of the other sisters did. Maybe. Even when the fact that Gitara had had a foretelling was common knowledge, sometimes no other than Tamra learned what it had been. It was foolish to hope to be present when Gitara had a foretelling, if Moiraine had hoped. But in the 4 hours since she and Siuan had replaced Tamra and Brendas in attendance on the Amyrlin, Gitara had only sat there writing a letter. It suddenly hit her that close on 4 hours was a very long time to spend on one letter, and Gitara had not covered half of one sheet of paper yet. She was sitting there with her pen suspended above the cream-colored page. As if Moiraine, thinking of it, had somehow reached her, Gitara glanced at the pen and made a sound of irritation, then swirled the steel nib in a small red-glazed bowl of alcohol to clean away the dried ink, clearly not for the first time. The liquid in the bowl was as black as that in the silver-capped ink jar of cut glass on the table. A gilt-edged leather folder full of papers lay open in front of Tamra, and she appeared to be studying them intently. Yet Moiraine could not remember seeing the Amyrlin turn over a single sheet. The two Aes Sedai's faces were images of cool calm, but plainly they were worried, and that made her worried too. She bit her lower lip in furious thought, and had to stop when a yawn threatened, the biting, not the thinking. It had to be something to make a worried day in particular. She had seen Tamra in the corridors yesterday, and if there had ever been a woman bubbling with confidence, it had been she. So, the battle had been raging for the last 3 days. If Gitara had really foretold the battle, if she really had the other foretellings, what else might they have been? Guessing would do no good, but reasoning might. The Aiel crossed the bridges, breaking into the city. Impossible. In 3,000 years, while nations rose and fell, and even Hawkwing's empire was swept away in fire and chaos, no army had managed to breach Tar Valon's walls or break down its gates. Quite a few had tried over that time. Perhaps the battle turned to disaster in some other way, or something needed to avoid disaster. Tamra and Gitara were the only two Aes Sedai actually in the tower at that moment, unless some had returned in the night. There had been talk of injured soldiers in such numbers that all sisters with the smallest ability at healing were needed, but no one had said straight out that that was where they were going. Aes Sedai could not lie. Wow, it's a good rhyme. Aes Sedai could not lie. Yet they often spoke obliquely, and they were not above misdirection. Sisters also could use the power of the weapon if they or their warders were in danger. No Aes Sedai had taken part in the battle, since the Chronicles Wars, when they had faced shadow spawn and armies of dark friends. But perhaps Gitara had foretold disaster unless Aes Sedai joined. But why wait until the third day? Could a foretelling be that detailed? Maybe if the sisters had entered the battle earlier, that would have been caused. Out of the corner of her eye, Moiraine saw Swan smiling at her. That smile turned Swan's face from handsome to pretty and made her clear blue eyes twinkle. Nearly a hand taller than Moiraine, Moiraine had gotten over the irritation she had once felt at being shorter than nearly all the women around her, but she could never help noticing either. Taller and almost as fair-skinned as she, Swan wore her formal accepted dress with an air of assurance that Moiraine had never quite mastered. The high-neck dresses were the purest white, except for the bands at the hem and cuffs that copied the Amyrlin Seat striped stole. She could not understand how so many sisters of the White Aja compared to wear white all the time, as if they were forever in mourning. For her, the hardest thing about being a novice had been dressing in plain white day after day. The hardest aside from learning how to control her temper anyway. That still dropped her in hot water now and then, but not so often as during her first year. We'll find out when we find out, Swan whispered with a quick glance at Tamra and Gitara. Neither moved an inch. Gitara's pen was held over the letter again, the ink drying. Moiraine could not help smiling back. Swan had that gift, making her smile when she wanted to frown and laugh when she wanted to weep. The smile turned into a yawn, and she looked hastily to see whether the Amyrlin or the keeper had noticed. They were still absorbed in their own thoughts. When she turned back, Swan had a hand over her own mouth and was glaring at her, which almost set her giggling. It had surprised her at first, she and Swan becoming friends, but among novices and accepted, the closest of friends always seemed to be very much alike or very different. In some things, she and Swan were alike. They were both orphans. Their mothers had died when they were young, their fathers since they left home, and both had been born with a spark, which was uncommon. They would have begun channeling the power. Eventually, whether or not they had tried to learn how, not every woman could learn by any means. That was where the differences began, before they arrived at Tar Valon, and it was not just that Swan had been born poor and she wealthy. Ikari and Aes Sedai were respected, and Moiraine had been given a grand dance in the Sun Palace to celebrate her departure for the Tower, and tear channeling was outlawed, and Aes Sedai were not popular. Swan had been bundled onto a ship bound upriver for Tar Valon the very day a sister discovered she could learn to channel. There were so many differences, though none mattered between them. Among other things, Swan had come to the tower in full control of her temper. She was quick with puzzles, which Moiraine was not. She could not abide horses, which Moiraine loved, and she learned at a rate that left Moiraine dazed. Oh, not about channeling the one power. They had been entered in the novice book on the same day, and moved almost in lockstep with the power, even to passing for accepted on the same day. Moiraine, though, had received the education expected of a noble woman, everything from history to the old tongue, which she spoke and read well enough that she had been excused classes in it. The daughter of a tyrant fisherman, Swan arrived barely able to read or do more than the simplest arithmetic, but she had soaked her lessons in like sand soaking up water. She taught the old tongue to novices now, at least the beginning classes. Swan was held up to novices as an example. Swan Sanche was held up to novices as an example of what they should aspire to. Well, both of them were. Only one other woman had ever finished novice training in just 3 years. Alida Alroynon, a detestable woman, had completed her also a record, and it seemed at least possible that they might match that as well. Moiraine was all too aware of her own shortcomings, but she thought that Siuan would make a perfect Aes Sedai. She opened her mouth to whisper that patience was for stones, but wind rattled the casements and another blast of freezing air hit her. She might as well have been standing in her shift for all the protection her dress gave. Instead of whispering, she gasped loudly. Tamra turned her head toward the windows, yet not because of Moiraine. The sound of distant trumpets suddenly was floating on the wind, dozens of them, no, hundreds. To be heard here inside the tower, there would have had to be hundreds, and the sound was continuous, call rolling over call. Whatever the cause, it must be urgent. Amyrlin closed the folder lying before her with a slap. Go see if there's news from the battlefield, Moiraine. Tamra spoke almost normally, but her voice held an unidentifiable edge, a sharpness. Someone, make some tea. Quickly, child. Moiraine blinked. The Amyrlin was worried, but there was only one thing to do. It will be as you say, Mother, she and Siuan said together without hesitation, offering deep curtsies, and turned for the door to the anteroom beside the fireplace. The gold-chased silver teapot sat on a rope-work tray on a table near that door, along with a tea canister, a honey jar, a small pitcher of milk, and a large pitcher of water, all worked in silver. A second tray held cups made of delicate green seafoam porcelain. Moiraine felt a faint tingle as Siuan opened herself to the source and embraced Sidar, the female half of the power. A close around her, though it would be visible only to another woman who could channel. Normally, channeling to do chores was forbidden, yet the Amyrlin had said quickly. Siuan was already preparing a thin thread of fire to bring the tea water to a boil. Neither Tamra nor Gitara spoke a word to stop her. The anteroom to the Amyrlin's apartments was not large, since it was only meant to hold a few visitors until they could be announced. Delegations came to the Amyrlin in one of those audience halls, or turned to study next door, not her private chambers. Backed by the sitting room fireplace, the anteroom was almost warm. There was only one chair, simply carved but large, yet despite its weight, the chair had been dragged closer to one of the gilded stand lamps, so Ellen Worrell, the slender novice on duty, would have better light to read. Facing away from the sitting room door, and intent on her wood-bound book, she did not hear Moiraine cross the fringed carpet. Ellen should have felt her presence long before she was close enough to peer over the child's shoulder. Not really a child, since she had been 7 years a novice and come to the tower at 18, but a novice was referred to as a child no matter her age. For that matter, Aes Sedai called accepted child too. Moiraine had been able to feel the child's ability to channel soon after entering the room. Ellen certainly should have been able to sense hers from this near. One woman who could channel could never sneak up on another if the second was paying attention. Peering over Ellen's shoulder, she recognized the book instantly. Hearts of Flame, a collection of love stories. The tower library was the largest in the known world, containing copies of almost every book that had ever been printed, but this was unsuitable for a novice. Except to be granted a little leeway. By that time, you knew that you would watch a husband age and die, and your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, while you changed not at all. But novices were quietly discouraged from thinking about men or love, and kept away from men entirely. It would never do for a novice to try running away to get married, or, worse, to get herself a child. Novice training was purposefully hard. If you were going to break, better it happened as a novice than as a sister. Being Aes Sedai was truly hard, and adding a child to that would only make matters beyond difficult. You should find more appropriate reading, Ellen, Moiraine said levelly, and pay more attention to your duties. Before Moiraine finished speaking, Ellen leapt to her feet with a startled gasp, the book tumbling to the floor. She was not tall for an Andorian, but Moiraine still had to look up to meet her eyes. When she saw Moiraine, she heaved a small sigh of relief. Very small. To novices, accepted were only a tiny step below Aes Sedai. Ellen spread her plain white skirts in a hasty curtsy. No one could have come in without my seeing Moiraine. Miriam Sedai said I could read. She tilted her head to one side, toying the white ribbon that held her hair. Everything novices wore was white, even their thin leather slippers. Why is that book inappropriate, Moiraine? She was 3 years the elder, but the great serpent ring and banded skirts marked a fountain of knowledge in novice eyes. Unfortunately, there were subjects Moiraine felt uncomfortable talking about with just anyone. There was such a thing as decorum. Picking up the volume, she handed it to the novice. The librarians would be very put out if you returned one of their books in damaged condition. She felt a measure of satisfaction at that. It was the sort of reply a full sister might have given when she did not want to answer the question, except it practiced the way Aes Sedai way of speaking against the day they gained the shawl. But the only ones to practice on safely were the novices. Some tried it with the servants for a little while, but that only got them laughed at. Servants knew very well that in Aes Sedai eyes, accepted were not a small step below the sisters, but a small step above the novices. As hoped for, Ellen anxiously began examining the book for damage, and Moiraine went on before the novice could come back to an embarrassing question. Have there been any messages from the field of battle, child? Ellen's eyes widened indignantly. You know I'd have brought them in right away if there had been any message, Moiraine. You know I would. She did know. Tamra had known too. But while the keeper or a sitter might point out that the Amyrlin had given a foolish order, at least she thought they might, and accepted could only obey. For that matter, novices were not supposed to point out that an accepted had asked a foolish question. Is that the proper way to answer me, Ellen? No, Moiraine, Ellen said contritely, popping another curtsy. There hasn't been any message the whole time I've been here. Her head tilted back. Her head tilted again. Gitara, said I, have a foretelling. Go back to your reading, child. As soon as the words were out of her mouth, Moiraine knew they were wrong, contradicting what she had said before. It was too late for her recovery now, though. Turning quickly, and hoping that Ellen had not noticed the blush suddenly hitting her face, she glided out of the anteroom with as much dignity as she could muster. Well, the mistress of novices had told the child she could read, and the librarians had let her take the book if one of the accepted had not loaned it to her. But Moiraine did hate sounding the fool. A faint trickle of smoke was rising from the teapot's spout, and more in the water pitcher when Moiraine re-entered the sitting room and closed the door. The glow of sidearm no longer shone around Siuan. Water boiled very quickly when the one power was used. The trick was to keep it all from flashing to steam. Siuan had filled 2 of the green cups and was stirring honey into one. The other was milky. Siuan pushed the cup she had been stirring toward Moiraine. Gitara, she said softly, and in a whisper with a grimace, she likes enough honey to turn into syrup. She told me not to be stingy. The porcelain was just barely too hot on Moiraine's fingertips, but it should be cooled to exactly the right point by the time she crossed the room to the writing table where Gitara still sat, now drumming her fingers on the tabletop impatiently. The polished blackwood clock on the mantel over the fireplace chimed to first rise. The trumpets were still calling. They seemed to sound frantic, though Moiraine knew that was only imagination. Tamra was standing at the windows, peering out at a sky that was growing brighter by the moment. She continued to stare out after Siuan and curtsied and proffered her cup, then finally turned and saw Moiraine. Instead of taking the tea, she said, What news, Moiraine? You know better than to delay. Oh, she was on edge to speak so. She had to know Moiraine would have spoken immediately if there had been anything. Moiraine was just offering Gitara her own cup, but before she could reply, the keeper jerked to her feet, bumping the table so hard that the ink jar overturned, spreading a pool of black across the tabletop. Trembling, she stood with her arms wrenched at her sides and stared over the top of Moraine's head, wide-eyed with terror. It was terror, plain and simple. He is born again, Gitara cried. I feel him. The dragon takes his first breath on the slope of Dragon Mount. He is coming. He is coming. Light help us. Light help the world. He lies in the snow and cries like the thunder. He burns like the sun. With the last word, she gasped, a tiny sound, and fell forward into Moraine's arms. Moiraine dropped the teacup to try to catch her, but the truth of it was that the larger woman bore both of them to the carpet. It was all Moiraine could do not to end up on her knees, holding the keeper, rather than lying beneath her. In an instant, Tamra was there, kneeling carelessly, ink trickling from the table. The light of Sidar already surrounded her, and she already had a weave prepared of spirit, air, and water. Gripping Gitara's head between her hands, she let the weave sink into the still form. But delving, used to check health, did not turn to healing. Looking helplessly into Gitara's staring eyes, Moiraine knew why not. She had hoped there was some tiny fragment of life left, something that Tamra could work with. Healing could cure any sickness, mend any injury, but you could not heal death. The pool of ink on the table had spread to ruin whatever the keeper had been writing. It was very odd what you noticed at a time like this. Not now, Gitara, Tamra breathed softly. She sounded weary to the bone. Not now, when I need you most. Slowly her eyes came up to meet Moraine's, and Moiraine started back on her knees. It was said Tamra's stare could make a stone move, and at that moment Moiraine believed. Amyrlin shifted her gaze to Siuan, still standing in front of the windows. Siuan had both hands pressed to her mouth, and the teacup she had been carrying lay on the carpet at her feet. She gave a jerk under that gaze too. Moraine's eye found the cup she had been carrying. A good thing the cups did not break, she thought. Seafoam porcelain is quite expensive. Oh, the mind did play odd tricks when you wanted to avoid thinking about something. You are both intelligent, Tamra said finally, and not dead, unfortunately. You know what Gitara just foretold. There was just enough question in that for both of them to nod and say that they did. Tamra sighed as if she'd been wishing for a different response. Taking Gitara out of Moraine's arms, the Amyrlin eased her down to the carpet and smoothed her hair. After a moment, she pulled the wide blue stole from Gitara's shoulders, folded it carefully, and laid it over the keeper's face. With your permission, Mother, Siuan said in a husky voice, I'll send Ellen to fetch the keeper's serving woman to do what's needful. Stay, Tamra barked. That iron-hard gaze studied them both. You will tell no one about this, not for any reason. If necessary, lie, even to a sister. Gitara died without speaking. Do you understand me? Moiraine nodded jerkily and was aware of Siuan doing the same. They were Aes Sedai, yet they could lie. Some did occasionally. They were not Aes Sedai yet. They could still lie. I was trying to rhyme them again. They could still lie, and some did occasionally, for all their efforts to behave like full sisters. But she had never been expected to be ordered to, especially not to Aes Sedai, and never by the Amyrlin Seat. Good, Tamra said tiredly. Send. The novice on duty is named Ellen. Send Ellen in to me. I'll tell her where to find Gitara's woman. And make sure that Ellen heard nothing through the closed door, obviously. Otherwise the task would have been Siuan and Moraine's. When the girl comes in, the two of you may go. And remember, not a word, not one. The emphasis only drove home the peculiarity. An order from the Amyrlin Seat was to be obeyed as if an oath, on oath, was no need to emphasize anything. I wished to hear a foretelling, Moiraine thought, as she made her final curtsy before leaving, and what I had received was a foretelling of doom. Now, she wished very much that she had been more careful of what she wished for. So that's the end of chapter 2 of New Spring. It was actually a pretty eventful chapter. For whoever's never read anything in this series, Robert Jordan really likes to describe things like down to the dot, down to the T. I don't know if that's a saying, but, cross your T's and dot your I's. But anyway, he's very notorious for taking something very seemingly, minute or irrelevant, and expanding on it to a very, lengthy degree. And so a lot of times it feels like nothing's really happening in the story. You're just getting tons and tons of descriptions of things and not really getting anywhere. But this chapter actually, it kind of explains why Siuan and Moiraine are the way they are later on in the story. I thought it was funny that it said that Siuan could not abide horses, which later on in the series is it's pretty comical actually how much her distaste for horses it kind of just had some comic relief in the story. So that was kind of funny, and I think it's interesting to see how Moiraine and Siuan got into their situations by having, heard Gitara's foretelling and being the only two other than Tamra who actually heard that foretelling. So it really kind of sets the stage for, part of a good portion of the first part of the series. That's pretty interesting how that worked. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Sticking with me through chapter 2. Be going through chapter 3 here shortly, so look forward to that. And thank you guys.